Doors to my grief relief program are closing next week. If you've been considering joining me on this healing journey, now is the time to take action. We'll be coming together in a safe and supportive community to process and heal from various forms of grief and loss. Whether you're grappling over the death of a loved one, job loss, loss of your health, loss of your identity, or even grief of losing an older version of yourself, or any other forms of grief, this program is designed to guide and help you through the healing process. If you're ready to find peace and healing and nurturing support, don't miss out on this opportunity. I'm here to help you feel less alone. To learn more and sign up, visit thehappyhealingshop.com/grief. Again, that's thehappyhealingshop.com/grief. After leaving the corporate 9-to-5 grind, I became the boss of my own spiritual business, helping others explore and navigate the human experience from insight, wisdom, and lessons learned along the way. Today, I help aspiring spiritual entrepreneurs gain the confidence to share their gifts with the world. Welcome to the Happy Healing Shop podcast. I'm your host, Trang Pham Nguyen, and each week we'll dive into incredible stories of strength, resilience, and transformation. So, if you are ready for some serious breakthroughs, laughs and tears, and stories that will inspire you, you are in the right place, my friend. Let's get started. Welcome to today's episode. I will be talking about topics today that may be triggering, including suicide, so please listen with care. In episode 21 of this podcast, I talk about how one of the life lessons I learned was that you're going to grieve in so many ways you didn't know exist. And so my time at Disney, which I talk a little bit about it in episode 2, was really difficult. It was one of my most challenging spiritual awakening, opened my eyes to a lot of things. And so I'm going to start off this episode talking about why that first boss I had was so toxic. The environment was toxic. It was kind of accepted there anyways, because people said, well, that's the way it is around here. And it's really hard when that is the culture there, and the people that know how to play the game, know how to deal with the politics, know how to be fake, but then in meetings, they turn to a different person, but behind closed doors, very, very different. And those people rose up the ranks. You come in bright-eyed thinking you can grow within a huge company, and then eventually you see that you question everything you were taught, your dreams are kind of shattered. So the reason why I had such a hard time was, looking back now, my boss bullied me. Think Devil Wears Prada, but in a more quiet way. So I'm going to read off in the notes that I took actually when I went to HR and finally spoke up for myself. And I truly do think that was the lesson behind this whole experience of standing up for yourself. And what happened was, it just took about a year and 8 months for me to finally say, like, I can't take this anymore. I tried applying to other jobs, didn't get it, but I truly think the universe was saying, you gotta speak up for yourself first, and then change can happen. This is the underlying lesson here. So finally, when I one day decided to go to the one HR person that I trusted, because a lot of times you can't trust HR, she tried to help advocate for me. When she saw that someone else was hiring for an assistant, she put in a really good word for me and kind of helped facilitate getting that first interview. So when I went to her, I knew how HR works. You need a lot of notes. It's kind of like investigation, right? So, which is what wound up happening. So there was a contractor that came on my team, actually my former business partner, and she sat behind me, and one day she went up to me and said, Trang, the way they talk to you here is so belittling and degrading. What the hell? So that's what made me kind of open my eyes and be like, so I wasn't going crazy all this time, because everyone else kind of accepted it or say, like, that's the way it is here, put your time in and then you move up the company. So she treated favorites on her team very differently. It was very obvious in my eyes. And the thing about bullying is that it's very targeted, right? So it was me, one other girl, but I was the main assistant, me and 1 or 2 other girls that weren't treated kindly. I received the brunt of it, but there's other people in the team who act completely 360 different. And the part that made me feel kind of crazy was thinking to myself, does anyone else see this? And it's things where vendors would give her gifts, and if she didn't want it, I knew quietly she would give it to someone else, to her favorites on the team. So they were really long hours at the office. Honestly, a lot of times I didn't have to stay there. She just wanted a physical body presence there from 9 a.m. till maybe 7:30 p.m. So again, there was no social life at that point, and if I did, I could read that she wasn't totally comfortable with me leaving, even though most of the time there was no work to do after 5 p.m. There are times where she says, "Have a nice weekend," to someone maybe one or two desks away from me, but then she'll ignore me and then just walk off. And I know some people listening in might think that's no big deal, but the thing is, after a while, with every single interaction, you start to feel degraded or less like a human. There's a difference between, oh, I didn't see you there versus I'm just going to talk to you and ignore you, even though you are my assistant and you are helping me out with my schedule and everything. Even for our Administration Appreciation Day, we had a little pizza party for us. And the funny part was she didn't even think of it. It was a director on the team that said, "Hey, should we do something for the admins on the team?" And it was so awkward. I still have this in my notes here. When she came into the room, she hugged one person and then ignored the two, three other girls, that including myself, that she seemed to have a chip against us. Another thing that was so toxic on the team looking back now, but back then I thought it was normal, was they would have conference calls with international teams and they would mute the button and then say, "Oh my gosh, isn't so and so so effing annoying?" Except they would actually cuss. And it was just so unprofessional. And then they would unmute themselves and go, "Yep, that's we can do, yeah, we can do that, or let's continue this or that." It was really like Mean Girls. And to think that Disney executives do this, looking back, you're like, wow, that is not something you would expect them to do, and really, really immature as well. And I know some people might say, oh, well, maybe she got bullied as a kid or she grew up in not so great family. But I remember someone telling me, but that doesn't make it okay. And so I understand when people try to be empathetic about a person who doesn't have the nicest intentions or who's made mistakes in life or who's mean, but the pain and the harm they continue to do till this day, it's still not okay. And there were even moments where I would try to be helpful and say like, "Hey, I can do the deck slides for you or PowerPoints for you." And I even have right in here, it says, I offered to do it twice and I got ignored. Like there are times where she wouldn't talk to me and wouldn't even look at me. And the thing at Disney is that you are treated very differently based on your job title. So executive assistant, receptionist, they are at pretty much the bottom of the totem pole. But that's the part where, looking back now, I think to myself, even if it's a janitor, even if you're an assistant or coordinator, it doesn't give you the right or the reason to belittle someone. And it's just like a relationship, right? Sometimes you think, is there one big, huge thing that finally made you jump the gun and leave? But a lot of times it's the little things, each daily interaction that happened, and over time, it just builds up. And so even on phone calls where she would call in on a cell phone and have me dial her into a meeting and I couldn't hear her because she kind of mumbled. I remember saying like, "Can you repeat that?" She would sigh really loud. "Can you connect me with so-and-so?" Like that. Or even hello. And I say, "Sorry, I got disconnected. I can dial you in right now." And she would respond just with that attitude of, okay. But the thing is, people might think, oh, she's maybe having a bad day. Again, I'm going to bring it back to how it was with me when she did that. But if there were other people on the phone that did the same thing, she wouldn't sound like that. I also had a coordinator team who didn't stand up for herself or really stand up for me either. She said, "I need to ask your boss a question, but I've interrupted her once before and it wasn't good." And I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Oh, it was mostly the look." And that's the thing. A lot of times, sadly, I see, and I've been told from another HR person, that bullying with women happens quite often, more than we would like to believe. And the way women can bully other women is through belittling them, but also it's just a very slow and sneaky way of getting under your skin. It's kind of like a slow poison that no one notices. And you think to yourself, I feel something's wrong with me. I feel like maybe, I don't know, my stomach, or I feel like I'm being poisoned. Like I swear, I think there's something in food. And everyone's saying, what are you talking about? It's fine. Oh, and of course, The executives I worked for never apologized for anything they did wrong. I think there maybe was a fear of looking bad if you made a mistake. Another thing that was hard with working with her was she wouldn't give me her passwords. So there are times where IT would need to come and fix her computer, but she's in meetings all day and I couldn't do anything because I said I don't have the password. And it took me time to coax her to kind of give me the password in order to fix whatever issue she's having. There's one time where I was trying to schedule a meeting with Marvel, but the thing is, because she liked to be in control, how she phrased it was she tells certain people information to control the information that flows around the company, right? And there was a Marvel meeting that was really hard to set up because it was with the top executive, and it was the only day I was able to get it was either the Tuesday or Wednesday before Thanksgiving. But the thing is, she did not tell me that she was flying out. She didn't put on her calendar as well. So thank God I was able to schedule a meeting with this really, really, really busy executive. And I found out that she was flying out from another coworker. And so that's when I reconfirm with her and say, like, the executive is so busy that I can't get anything sooner before that Tuesday or Wednesday. And so Marvel's office asked me saying, hey, is the meeting still on? Just want to confirm. And she said, even waving her hand at me, just let me handle it so you don't have to mess it up. I remembered those words so viscerally. And there were times where she would be on vacation and I had to not tell anyone because she wanted to be private. But then people would say, hey, where is she? How can I set up a meeting with her? And so there are times where, even though I knew she didn't want anyone to know that she was out of the office or why she was out of the office, I had to quietly tell them, be like, hey, she's on vacation, so please don't bother her. It was such a straining relationship and it was difficult. And even I found out that the girl before me that worked for her, was actually cried as well because someone said, oh, it isn't bad here. And then she just broke down and said, yes, it is bad here. When you're in the interview process and you ask where the other person go, where they move on to, they say, oh, they are working for a startup now or some smaller company, but they're not going to tell you at Disney, like, oh, the boss is actually a mean person. So during this time of being bullied, and I guess you can call it being slowly poisoned without realizing it, I cried so much. Within 2 months, my friend pointed out saying, like, hey, your jaw clicks when you eat. I didn't know my body was going under so much stress. You're just kind of trying to survive every day, but trying to learn more. And the thing about my ex-boss was she was very unpredictable at times. And after I reported my boss and, moved on to the other team and she was able to hire another person, I saw how different she treated that next person. And part of me did get a little bit, let's say angry, but it was just that feeling of why couldn't you be that nice to me? But on the other hand, she did have a mark in her record now that I reported her. So I think she knew that she was being watched. So during this time, I was very, very suicidal. The only reason I am still here to this day is because I didn't have a gun. And I have planned my suicide so many times over and over in my head when I was at Disney. And I knew the way I want to go would be with a gun. It's sad thinking about it, it's sad thinking that I was in that situation mentally and I was in a lot of pain. I was thinking I don't want to live anymore. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And you start thinking, okay, if I get a gun, I don't want the landlord to have a really big mess to clean up in my apartment. I think I'll do it by holding a trash bag over my head so my blood doesn't spill out. And then just shoot myself. I was so close to it. It was very real. The only thing that stopped me really honestly was how, and I'm sure my spirit guides came in, I kept getting the image of an officer going to my parents' doorsteps and knocking on the door saying, your daughter was found dead in her apartment and it looks like she killed herself. And I can't imagine the pain they would go through, but also just the pain and struggle they went through to immigrate from escape Vietnam and come here and then, work really hard and find out that their daughter's dead. So that image kept playing in my head, and that's what probably kept me just alive to just get to the next day, just to make it to the next day. And also the thought of getting a gun, trying to figure out how to work it, and also the thought of what if I don't successfully kill myself? What if I just damage a huge part of my brain and I am handicapped for the rest of my life? That fear also kind of stopped me as well. So I know some people say, but why would you want to kill yourself if you know you're loved by people, by family, by friends? And the thing is, people don't want to die. People don't want to kill themselves. They just want to stop feeling the pain. And so thinking back about this, I am very grateful for that HR lady. She helped me advocate for myself. She helped me find my power, the little that I felt I had back then. And she said, I want you to go into that room and say how I found another opportunity and give my 2 weeks notice, instead of me having her tell my boss that, even though she was already facilitating it. And, both executives from my new job and that ex-boss were aware of their transition. And of course, with this whole experience and being laid off from Disney due to COVID, there was, again, just grieving over my older version of myself that was naive and bright-eyed and hopeful for, working hard and thinking I will move up the ranks of any company. And also, when you go through a job loss, you have so much resentment because you realize even if you're a hard worker, that doesn't guarantee anything. The world is different now. Other people get promotions. They don't teach you in school that, oh, you're just a number at a company. And a lot of times promotions will be given to the people that know how to play the office politics really well. And they don't tell you that if you're a woman or if you're a minority, you're going to have things stacked against you, even though it is unfair. And then coming to realize that everything you were taught was wrong. Just what you were taught in school, the old traditional rules of work hard, and you'll rise up the ranks, or network with the right people. I did so many coffee meetings at Disney, which they always encouraged network and grow, but it didn't get me anywhere. Because the thing is, when you're going for a certain position, so are 50 other Disney employees and external people. And if you've been laid off before, or maybe not, you come to realization that a company is not loyal to you. And as an employee, you shouldn't be loyal to a company either. And the funny part is how people wonder, or executives wonder, why do people change jobs, especially the younger generation, why we change jobs so often. And maybe they need to realize that if you underpay people or you do layoffs, what reason is there for us to be loyal to you if you're not loyal to us? So overall, with my experience at Disney, it definitely set me on a new path. Not easy at all. It's very painful. But that's actually how I got into the spiritual world. But I would say overall, it is grieving over the old version of myself, allowing myself to be angry at believing in everything I was taught growing up. I wouldn't say that I was grieving too much over my loss of identity, because I wasn't one of those gung-ho Disney people that drank the Kool-Aid, but just grieving over thinking my future was going to be stable. There was so much financial stress to being laid off. There was health issues that came up. There was a loss of, with the stability, a routine, and trying to find a sense of normalcy. And losing a job can feel like a setback, or I wouldn't say a failure for me, but it's just a lot of disappointment, again, on what I was taught growing up and working hard and realizing you could still be cut. So I would love to hear from you if you've had any toxic situations in the past at any company, and how you dealt with it, and what made you realize it was time to leave. As you can see, grief and loss can come in many different shapes and forms, and these emotions that come with it are not a one-size-fits-all. If you like this episode, please click that like and follow button and give a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. It will help out a lot. And as you know, finding support is really important when life's challenges hit you. If you're looking for a beautiful, kind, spiritual community, head on over to Facebook at our community called The Happy Healers. I also have the Happy Healing Club, my membership, where we have guided meditations, live Reiki energy healing sessions, and breath work, my happy hour events, and also shadow work healing journal. I'll include all the links down in the show notes. Until we meet again, my friend, always remember to shine your light brightly and to share your story. because you'll never know who it can help, give hope to, or inspire to create a change in their own world. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you soon.